Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode, late 1949 Project Twinkle. The military's first empirical hunt for the green fireballs. Project Twinkle represents a pivotal chapter in the early history of official UAP investigations. Born directly out of the panic following the February 1949 Los Alamos Conference, the project was an explicit acknowledgement by the United States Air Force that scattered pilot debriefs and subjective eyewitness logs were no longer sufficient to manage a security crisis occurring directly over the nation's most sensitive atomic reservations. Following the high-level summit were figures like Dr. Edward Teller, Laboratory Director Norris Bradbury, and military intelligence officers debated whether the green fireballs were advanced Soviet psychological operations or unacknowledged reconnaissance probes. The military realized it faced a frustrating operational blind spot. The Air Materiel Command, AMC, and the Air Research and Development Command, ARDC, determined they needed hard, objective instrumental data. Eyewitness accounts from commercial and military flight crews, while alarming, could not provide the rigorous telemetry required by defense planners. The military needed to capture the velocity, altitude, exact trajectory, and physical composition of the anomalies. Thus, Project Twinkle was authorized to deploy specialized tracking stations designed to catch the elusive green fireballs on film. Project Twinkle was conceived as a masterclass in mid-century scientific surveillance. The military recognized that human memory, pilot panic, and civilian exaggeration were unreliable variables. To solve the mystery of the green fireballs, the Air Force sought to completely eliminate human subjectivity by replacing the eyewitness with hard, mechanical optics. To intercept phenomena that appeared unpredictably across vast stretches of airspace, Project Twinkle established specialized, fixed observation posts positioned directly in the high-risk corridors surrounding critical military and atomic infrastructure in New Mexico. Key tracking networks were concentrated around Holloman Air Force Base near Alamogordo and the town of Vaughn, New Mexico, geographical hot zones where military pilots and ground crews had repeatedly logged low-altitude, high-speed emerald incursions. These posts were manned by trained military personnel and civilian technicians, instructed to maintain round-the-clock vigilance, scanning the night skies with precision instruments rather than binoculars or naked eyes. The cornerstone of Project Twinkle's technical arsenal was the Cinetheodolite, a sophisticated, heavy-duty optical tracking instrument borrowed from missile testing and rocketry ranges, such as nearby White Sands Proving Ground. Unlike standard motion picture cameras, a Cinetheodolite consisted of a high-precision camera mounted on a heavily calibrated graduated mechanical base. As an operator tracked a moving object in the crosshairs, the internal optics simultaneously photographed the target alongside internal dials, recording the exact horizontal, azimuth, and vertical elevation angles down to fractions of a degree. Every single frame of film was time-stamped with microscopic precision. The military's master plan relied on multi-station synchronization. If two or more observation posts, spaced miles apart, spotted the same green fireball and tracked it simultaneously, researchers could combine the overlapping film logs. Using trigonometric triangulation, experts could calculate the object's exact altitude, real-time velocity, absolute trajectory angles, and physical dimensions, finally providing definitive proof of whether the objects were space debris, plasma anomalies, or guided technological craft. Despite the elegance of this high-tech setup, Project Twinkle's operational methodology ran straight into a baffling physical wall. The instruments were ready, but the elusive fireballs refused to cooperate under the lens. Despite the deployment of state-of-the-art military hardware and precision optics, Project Twinkle quickly devolved into an exercise in operational frustration. Field commanders and intelligence officers ran headfirst into a bizarre, recurring phenomenon that defied standard military logic. The target seemed acutely aware of the surveillance apparatus watching them. As meticulously documented in internal United States Air Force and Air Materiel Command (AMC) correspondence, including a notable AMC memorandum from September 1950, a profoundly strange pattern emerged almost immediately after the project went live. Whenever researchers, technical crews, and military personnel established systematic tracking posts, set up tripods, and calibrated their cinetheodolites in a suspected hotspot, the green fireballs abruptly stopped appearing in front of those specific lenses. While civilian pilots and base personnel miles away continued to report occasional erratic bursts across the New Mexico desert, the monitored zones experienced an eerie, calculated quiet. To investigators on the ground, it felt as though the phenomenon possessed an active evasion capability, appearing wherever the cameras weren't and vanishing the moment a rigorous scientific net was cast. Because the observation posts relied on fixed positions and narrow fields of view, the physical realities of the incursions worked against the tracking teams. The green fireballs were profoundly brief, highly transient events. Moving at tremendous hypersonic speeds along flat horizontal trajectories, an object would cross a local section of airspace in a matter of seconds. By the time human operators could physically acquire the target in their crosshairs, adjust tracking gears, and expose film, the luminous orb had already streaked past the horizon. This catastrophic shortage of high-value telemetry left Project Twinkle's analysts with virtually no concrete physical evidence to evaluate. The project's ultimate failure to capture the elusive fireballs on film left the military empty-handed, paving the way for a convenient, officially sanitized conclusion, and setting the stage for an intense clash with independent civilian scientists. Project Twinkle was not conducted in a vacuum. It relied heavily on civilian academic expertise to interpret whatever data the military could pull together. At the center of this scientific consultation was Dr. Lincoln Lapaz, the director of the University of New Mexico's Institute of Meteoritics and universally recognized as the United States' premier authority on meteors, meteorites, and atmospheric physics. However, Dr. Lapaz's involvement quickly turned into a profound institutional headache for the Air Force, as his rigorous scientific integrity collided directly with the military's growing desire to sweep an unanswerable security problem under the rug. The military's goal. By 1950 and 1951, the Air Force and the Atomic Energy Commission were facing immense pressure to calm public anxiety, protect classified nuclear secrets, and restore a sense of order. They were looking for an authoritative, neat explanation that could be handed to the public and intelligence chiefs to close the books on the green fireball panic. Lapaz, by contrast, treated the incoming reports with absolute objective rigor. He interviewed eyewitnesses, analyzed military pilot logs, reviewed radar accounts, and personally investigated landing site or burn marks. When Lapaz evaluated the accumulated trajectory reports and field data collected from across New Mexico, he came to a conclusion that terrified the military establishment. The green fireballs were fundamentally not natural meteors. Lapaz meticulously cataloged the physical contradictions that dismantled the Air Force's preferred natural bolide theory. Normal natural meteors enter Earth's atmosphere from space, along steep arcing, downward plunges dictated by gravity and orbital mechanics. Lapaz noted that the green fireballs moved on unnervingly flat horizontal trajectories, often running parallel to the curvature of the Earth at low, controlled altitudes. Natural meteors entering the lower atmosphere at hypersonic speeds generate tremendous sonic booms, shockwaves, and explosive fragmentation. Lapaz emphasized that witnesses consistently reported the green fireballs traveling in absolute, chilling silence. Rather than following unguided, random ballistic paths, the objects exhibited behaviors that suggested intelligent control or aerodynamic anomaly, such as altering course slightly without losing momentum, leveling out over sensitive infrastructure, or winking out instantaneously. Dr. Lapaz's refusal to bend his scientific conclusions to fit the military's preferred narrative created a severe rift. While Project Twinkle's official administrators leaned toward dismissing the mystery as rare nickel-magnesium space rocks, Lapaz's vocal dissent proved that the nation's top meteor expert refused to endorse a fabricated explanation. His opposition exposed a deep institutional fracture between military public relations and genuine scientific inquiry, setting a historic precedent for how the government would handle anomalous phenomena for decades to come. By late 1951, the United States Air Force quietly pulled the plug on Project Twinkle. After more than a year of deployment, field tracking, and resource allocation, the official assessment was a stark admission of failure. The project had come away having learned essentially nothing in terms of capturing hard, definitive instrumental proof of the green fireballs on film. Rather than admitting that an unknown technology was operating with total impunity over America's secret nuclear reservations, the military chose a path of institutional closure. When the final Project Twinkle report was issued, it delivered a remarkably convenient, highly sanitized conclusion designed to diffuse national security panic. The Air Force formally declared that the green fireballs were likely natural in origin. Investigators attributed the phenomena to highly unusual exotic space rocks or meteoric bylides uniquely rich in chemical compounds like nickel and magnesium. According to this official stance, the atmospheric vaporization of these specific elements accounted for the vivid neon-emerald luminescence that had terrified pilots and ground crews across New Mexico and the Pacific Northwest. Project Twinkle's quiet burial did much more than close a single investigative file. It established a permanent, systemic blueprint for how the U.S. government and military would handle unexplainable aerial phenomena for generations to come. The avoidance of hard truths. Whenever an anomalous phenomenon proved too technologically advanced, too threatening to national security, or too difficult to explain away through conventional physics, the official apparatus pivoted to a predictable playbook. By adopting a convenient natural explanation that directly contradicted the data gathered by experts like Dr. Lincoln Lapaz, the military chose institutional comfort over scientific transparency. Project Twinkle left behind a profound historical legacy. It proved that when confronted with an unintercepted intelligence that completely bypassed the defensive capabilities of the early Cold War, the state's ultimate response was not investigation, but a carefully constructed wall of silence. Since the U.S. government first investigated the green fireballs through Project Twinkle, and with the phenomenon continuing right up until my own sighting before the pandemic, it leaves us with two primary possibilities to consider. First, non-human intelligence. An external intelligence is intentionally displaying these objects to make us think, to send a warning, or simply to observe how humanity reacts to an undeniable anomaly right above our airspace, just as they have for decades. Second, river-engineered technology. Following the 1948 to 1949 crash retrievals, such as Roswell, recovered non-human craft or propulsion systems were quietly secured, re-engineered and secretly tested by human military or defense contractors. When you connect the historical record of the 1940s to modern personal sightings across the Pacific Northwest, these fireballs suggest that either an unknown intelligence is keeping a permanent, watchful eye on our nuclear infrastructure, or humanity unlocked a technology long before the public was ever allowed to know. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archived Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown, Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact and the Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute exploration into the evolution of ufology, perfect for your daily plunge into decoding hidden messages from outer space, designed to raise awareness and foster human evolution. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.